updated message here, and I want you to write await pusher server, which you can import from /libs pusher. So just make sure you imported that, like here at the top, and then just write .trigger current user .email, and the key you're going to use is conversation update, like this, and the object which you're going to pass to there is ID, conversation ID, and messages updated message, like this. Great. So we still don't have this conversation update, but we are just preparing it for the future. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if we already seen this message or not. So perhaps we might be the sender of this message, but we still triggered this seen route. So let's go ahead and write if last message dot seen IDs dot index of current user dot ID is not equal to 1, return next response .json conversation, like that. Great. Sorry, not equal to 1, but equal to -1. So make sure you don't accidentally put 1 like I did. It's equal to -1, like this. Great. And if this isn't the case, so if we did not see the last message, that means that we are not in the array seen, if you remember that each message has. That means that we can go ahead and alert every new user that we have seen that message. So go ahead and write await pusher server dot trigger conversation ID, like this, and you can put an exclamation point here so the types are okay. The key is going to be message update, like that, and the third argument is going to be updated message, like that. Great. And you can just go ahead and save this as well. Perfect. And now that you have that, I'm going to go back into my body element right here, and we're going to subscribe to another bind right here. So go ahead and write pusher client that bind message update, like that, and the handler is going to be update message handler, like this. And for now, all you can do, just const update message handler, just write an empty function like this, and then make sure you also write the unbind for that. So go ahead and write pusher client that unbind message update message handler, like this. Perfect. So in order to update the message in real time, and what exactly do we update real time in a message? Well, we update its seen array. So when I'm in a group chat, I want to see real time updates if someone logged in has seen my message. So I want that to appear below this message right here. So all we have to do is we have to get the new message, which is a type of full message type. Go inside. I'm just going to expand this so you can see everything I'm writing. Go inside of here and write set messages current.map current message, like this, and open an object, sorry, a function. And now you're going to check if current message.id is equal to new message.id. In that case, return new message, like this. So if we find the exact message we are looking at, go ahead and update it or replace it with the new message. Otherwise, you can just return whatever is in the for loop which we are using, which is exactly the same as map. Great. Sorry, it's not exactly the same as map, but in our case, we're using map as a for iteration here. Great, great job. And now if you actually try, well, you're not going to see much right now because I did not open a second window here. So I'm just going to prepare that. I'm going to open 2 windows and we're going to try and communicate with each other. Great, so I've prepared it right here. So here I'm logged in as new, and here I'm logged in as Mark, and we're going to try and communicate with each other. So I'm going to say, hello, Mark, like this. We're going to wait a couple of seconds. And the messages should appear as long as they're created. So there we go. I got this hello Mark, and you can see how in real time I got this update seen by Mark. So I will just zoom this in so it's more visible for you. And now here I'm gonna say hello new, like that. Let's just wait a second for this to be sent. And there we go, we get hello new. In a couple of seconds here, I can see that it's been seen by new. Amazing. So that's what our two functions did, the update message, sorry, the message update and message new did. So now we have to do the same thing, but for the conversation sidebar. Great, so let's do the conversation thing now. So where I want you to go is I want you to go into your API folder. So I'm just going to expand everything just a little bit so we can see better. All right, go into your API folder, go into conversations route.ts. So it's going to be this file where we create our group chats and our individual conversations here. Great. So first I want you to solve the group thing. So go into the if is group clause right here. And just before we send the new conversation, I want you to write new conversation dot users dot for each user. We're gonna check if there is a user email. So if user dot email like this, go ahead and write pusher server dot trigger, and make sure you import pusher server from /libs pusher like this. So just make sure you have this imported right here. Great. Pusher server dot trigger user dot email conversation new, and go ahead and send new conversation like this. So again, the channel which we are subscribing to is the user's individual email because it's unique and because we have it in the session which we're going to use in the client. The key we are sending is conversation new, and the client is going to be listening to this key on this channel and is going to update our sidebar of conversations right here with that new conversation that's just been created. Great. Before we test this, we have to do the same thing for individual one-on-one conversation. So just go ahead all the way down, and here before we send the new conversation, do the same thing. So new conversation dot users dot map user. Go ahead and write if user dot email like this, pusher server dot trigger user dot email conversation new, and new conversation as a third argument. Great job. And now we have to go ahead and subscribe to our email on the front end and listen or bind to this key on the front end as well, and create a handler which is going to append this new conversation inside of our list. So let's go in our conversation list component. So it's going to be located in conversations and in components, conversation list right here. Great. And now that we have that, first let's create the pusher key. So go ahead and create a constant called pusher key, which is a use memo. Add the dependency array and just write return session, and make sure you add the session. So const session is equal use session. You can import the session from next-out/react. So make sure you import that, and then when you have the session, you can return session dot data dot user and dot email like this, and go ahead and put that in the dependency array as well. Great. So we have this pusher key, so we don't have to repeat this long line every single time. Great. Now let's create a use effect, which you can import from React as well. So just, of course, make sure that this use effect has been imported here. Great. First, let's check if we have the pusher key. So if there is no pusher key, meaning that the session has not loaded yet, you can just return and break this use effect. We don't need it. Otherwise, we can use pusher client, which you can import from /applibs pusher. So just make sure you do that here. Great. And write dot subscribe to pusher key. And our pusher key is going to be our email. Why our email? Well, because in our conversations, that's where we are going to trigger an update for each user's conversation list. So go back into conversation list, or if you've stayed here, great. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bind. So pusher client dot bind conversation new like this. And it's going to use a new handler like that. So just here create a const new handler, which is just going to be an arrow function for now like this. Great. And make sure you use the pusher key inside of this dependency array. And of course, in return function or the unmount function, you have to unsubscribe and unmount. So go ahead and just run pusher client.unsubscribe pusher key like that, and pusher client.unbind conversation new handler like this. Perfect. And now we have to actually append our new conversation to the list of items that we have right here. Great. So let's go ahead and write that. So conversation is going to be a type of full conversation type. We already have this imported right here. Great. And what we're going to do is we're going to call set items, which we have from this state right here. We're going to go through the current, and first we're going to compare if there is an existing conversation that we are trying to add, just to ensure that there are no duplicates. So if find, which you can import from Lodash right here, open the parenthesis, make sure you don't accidentally close the if clause. So if there is, so we're going to search for the current array, and we're going to find an item with an ID of conversation.id like that. Great. So if that exists, go ahead and return current like this. And I'm just gonna see what is the error here. I think I removed my import, so just make sure you imported find. Yeah, so there is something wrong here. Just make sure you imported find from Lodash like this, and there should be no error for you. Great. So if there is a current conversation, then do nothing with the array. Otherwise, we're gonna modify the array by putting the conversation first and then spreading the current like this. Great job. So now that we have that, we can actually go ahead and try. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to remove this conversation with Mark, for example, so I don't have one. Make sure you do that. Great. And what I suggest you do is just wait a couple of seconds, or you can just manually refresh conversations like this. So make sure that Mark is removed like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and try in this other browser that I have where I'm logged in as Mark. I'm going to go ahead and try and create a new conversation right here. So just wait a couple of seconds. I clicked new here. And in a couple of seconds, there you go. You can see in real time it added a new conversation that we have without refreshing this page, which is exactly what we wanted. Great job. Great. And now let's create a handler which is going to update our conversation sidebar, but not by adding a new conversation, but by editing the last sent message. Because now, for example, if I say, hey, this is the last sent message, for example, sure, our pusher does work here in the body, and in a couple of seconds it's going to appear here. But you can see that our message here is still an old one, same as here. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we already have everything ready on the server, and you can search that by conversation update and where we've written it. So we've written to update the conversation every time we seen a message, so it's no longer it won't be bold, and every time we create a new message, we also send an update to every single user in that conversation. We send an update to their channel email with a conversation update. So just make sure you don't actually accidentally misspell this conversation update or conversation new or message update like that. Great, so we actually have everything ready on the server, and we can go back into our conversation list right here, and alongside the new handler, we're also gonna bind another key here. So pusher client.bind conversation update like that, and it's gonna be called update handler like this. Great. So just go ahead and write const update handler is going to be accept a conversation, which is a type of full conversation type like that. It is an arrow function, so just open it like this, and all you want to do is write set items. My apologies. So just write set items, yeah. Get the current, immediately return current.map, get the current conversation, and open a function like this. So I'm just going to expand so you can see. Whoops. Like this. And inside, let's do a comparison to find the one we want to update. So if current conversation.id is equal to conversation.id. So this is the new conversation that came from the pusher, and this is the one from the current list, from our current array. Go ahead and write return spread the current conversation, and just write messages conversation.messages like that, because that's what we actually want to update. And outside of this if clause, just return current conversation like that. Great. And make sure you also unbind this in the unsubscribe. So pusher client.unbind conversation update handler like this. And while you're developing this, always just double check that you didn't actually misspell any of these keys, both on the server and on the client. Otherwise, you might not be getting the results that you want. Great. Now that we have this, I'm going to refresh both of my pages here, and we're going to try and we're going to send a new message to see if we can actually update our sidebar in real time now. Great. So we have this message right here, but we are the ones who sent this, if I'm correct, and it's going to update in a second when the session loads. Great. And we have it here. Now let's go ahead and let's try, and I'm just going to try and open this now. And in a couple of seconds, there you go. You see how it went from bold to clear? That's because we triggered the scene route, and our scene route triggers the conversation update and gave us a new conversation with a list of new people who have seen this message. Great. So let's go ahead and let's try and send, hey, let's start with something else. Update, for example. I'm going to go back here. Let's see if I'm going to receive it in real time without refreshing. So in a couple of seconds, I got update, and there we go. I got update right here as well. And in a couple of seconds, it also went from unread to read, because every time we receive a new message, we called the Axios scene post. Great, great job. So one more thing we want to do with these conversations is we want to remove them from our list in case it's been deleted, because right now that does not happen until we refresh. So that's the last thing we have to do with the conversations real time. So let's go, and I'm just going to close everything, go into app, API, conversations, conversation ID, not inside scene folder, but right here. Great. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to find this deleted conversation right here, and I'm going to use the existing conversation. So remember, we have this existing conversation here. I briefly explained why I did this. Why did I just not call the deleted conversation? Well, this is why, because we need a list of users before we deleted the conversation. So I'm going to use this existing conversation inside, and I'm going to run .users.forEach user right here. If user.email, I'm going to call pusher server, which you can import from @libs pusher like this. So just make sure you've imported it. Great. Pusher server dot trigger user dot email. The second argument is going to be the key conversation remove. So we had conversation new, conversation update, and now we have conversation remove. Just make sure you don't misspell anything. And the last argument is going to be existing conversation like this. Perfect. And now that you have that, you can go ahead and go back into your conversation list component where you added the new and update. And you can already guess the drill. So pusher client.bind conversation remove handler like this. Let's just write this handler. So remove handler is going to be a simple arrow function like this. And make sure you do the same thing in the unmount. So pusher client.unbind conversation remove handler like this. And inside, in the parameter, you're going to get the conversation, which came from the pusher, which is going to be a type of full conversation type like this. And all you're going to do is write set items, get the current, open the function, and return current. But you're going to filter a single conversation and compare if conversation.id is equal to is not equal to conversation.id, which we have from pusher right here. So basically, we're going to go over our current list of conversations, and we're going to filter out, we're only going to leave those in which are not equal in the of the ID which we received from pusher. Great. So now that we have this, I'm just gonna expand it here and make sure you refresh before you try this. Great, so I have these two examples right here. I can zoom in a bit here as well. Great. So let's just wait a second till my loading finishes. There we go, it's finished here. It's finished here, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. So I'm gonna open my drawer. I'm gonna click delete, delete, and I'm gonna wait here and see if it's gonna be removed in real time. Let's just give it a couple of seconds, and there we go. It has been removed. Great job. So obviously, what we also want to do is we want to redirect the user if the user has the conversation open here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that functionality as well in the remove handler. So to do that, all you have to do is go back into your remove handler right here, and what you want to do is just write if conversation ID is equal to conversation.id router.push / conversations, like this. Great. And make sure you also add the conversation ID to the list of arrays and also router as well. Great. So now if we get our conversation removed while it's open for us, it's gonna redirect us back to conversations like this. Great. So I'm just gonna go ahead and prepare this to see if this didn't create any additional bugs and if it works as intended. All right, so I have it prepared right here. I sent a couple of messages. I didn't change any code. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this conversation, and I'm going to wait here to see if our code works as expected, and it does. So we noticed that the conversation was correct, and it redirected us back to /conversations here. And we can go ahead and immediately try and create a conversation back with that user to see if it's going to create it again. So I clicked on new here, and let's just wait a couple of seconds, and there we go, it's back here in real time. And you can even test and send a message. So hello, real time. In a couple of seconds, it's going to appear right here. It's going to update here, and it's here in real time. I'm going to answer right here, and in a couple of seconds, I'm going to get an answer right here, and this is going to change to seen. Great, amazing job. All that's left to do here is to add functionality to this active status right here. So first thing that we have to do here is we have to create a presence channel where we are going to search for active users in order to know whether we assigned an active status or an offline status. So I'm going to expand my code a little bit, and for this we're going to have to use our pages folder, because the pusher does not support the new Next 13 yet, but don't worry, pages folder is going to be supported for a long time. It's completely normal, and it's actually encouraged to mix and match the two while we are in this migration process. So go ahead and create a new folder called pages, and we're just going to use it for our API folder, and we're going to create a single route called auth.ts inside like this. Sorry, not like this, so please remove this file. Inside the API folder, create a new folder called pusher, so it's a bit more correct. And inside pusher, create a new file, auth.ts. My apologies. So just like this, great. And what you want to do is import next API request, next API response from next like this. Then you're going to import get server session from next auth. Then you're going to import pusher server from @applibs pusher, and you're going to import auth options from @app API auth, find your next auth route. So we already did this in get session, if you remember, and you can just copy it from there, at least this part, if you are getting confused by it. So this is targeting our special folder of next auth. Basically, you just need the auth options. Great. And now just write export default async function handler. First argument is going to be request of next API request. Second one is going to be response of next API response, like this. Now we're going to write our session. So const session is equal await get server session. First argument is a request, second is response, and last one is out options, like this. Great. Now let's check if we are authorized or not. So if there is no session user email, in that case, return response.status 401, like this. Now I'm going to define my sockets, which I will explain later how we are going to get. So const socket ID is going to be request.body.socket_ID. Const channel is going to be request.body.channel name, like this. And const data, which we are going to send, is going to be user_ID session.user.email, like this. Great. And in the end, just write const out response is equal to pusher server dot authorize channel socket ID as the first argument, channel as the second, and data as the third argument. And in the end, just run return response dot send out response, like this. Great. So now we have this handler function right here, which is basically our /API/pusher/auth route. So where are we going to put that, and how do I know about these fields right here? So it's very simple. We're going to go back into our app folder, into our libs, into pusher.ts right here, and we're going to expand our pusher client a bit. So besides this cluster right here, we're also going to add something else in this object, and that's going to be called channel authorization. And in here, we're going to add an endpoint to /API/pusher/auth, like this, and transport is going to be a type of AJAX, like this. Great. So just to confirm that you did this correctly, you can open your console, and if you're getting any errors for that route, you should get an error. Right, so if you're not getting any errors, everything should be fine. If you're getting an error for this API pusher out, you will see it right here in the console. Great. So what I'm going to create now, I'm going to create a global store for our active users in the presence channel. Great, so I'm going to expand this again, and I'm going to go back into my app folder. I'm going to go into hooks, and I'm going to create a new file called let me just focus. So use active list.ts, like this. And we're going to use a package called sustand. So just make sure we import that as well. So npm install sustand, like this. And after it's been installed, you can npm run dev again, but just refresh your page. Great. So I'm going to go and write this store. So import create from sustand, like this. We're going to write an interface. So interface active list store is going to be members, which is an array of a string. Add is going to be a function which accepts an ID, which is a string, and it's an empty void. And I'm just going to copy this a couple of times. We're also going to have a remove, and we're also going to have set. Except the last one is not going to be just single ID, it's going to be multiple IDs, and it's going to be an array of strings like the initial members. Great. And now I'm going to write const use active list is equal to create from toStand, which we already imported, open pointy brackets, and give it a type of active list store, like that. And now I'm going to open brackets here, and I'm going to open a function like this. The argument inside here is going to be set. And instead of just an empty, a plain old function like this, I'm going to open parentheses and then write an object inside, so it returns an immediate object. The first argument is going to be members, and it's going to be an empty array. Add function is going to function in a way that I give an ID, and then I call the set function. I'm going to use the current state. I'm going to open an object again, and I'm going to write members. And I'm going to spread the current state.members, and I'm going to give it the ID, like this. Great. Now for the remove function, I'm going to get an ID. I'm going to call the set again. I'm going to get the current state, and again, open an object immediately, and we assign the members. And in here, I'm going to write the state.members.filter member ID. Go ahead and immediately just compare the member ID is not equal to ID like this. Great. So remove calls the set, and it opens an immediate object where we modify the members. It calls state.members.filter. It gets the member ID, and it just compares the member ID from that array to make sure it's filtered out depending on what the user sent and wants to filter out. Great. And the last one we need is set, and that's a simple one. So IDs, set members IDs like this. Great. And make sure you write export default use active list like this. Perfect. What we have to do now is we have to create a component called active status. So let's go into our components and create a new file called active status.tsx like this. Make sure you mark it as use client like this, and just write const active status is equal to an arrow function like this, return null, and export default active status like this. And we're gonna add a hook here just as soon as we create it. Great. So now what I want you to do is go into your main layout file right here where we add the auth context and toaster context. And I just want you to use that component here. So active status like this, and make sure you import active status from /components active status like this. Great. And now you can go back into this active status here, and we're actually gonna go ahead and we're gonna quickly create another hook called use active channel. So go back into hooks before you do that and create a hook called use active channel.ts like this. Great. And I'm just going to make it a very simple one. So const use active channel, just like this, and export default use active channel like this. Great. And now we can go back into active status and you can just import it and execute it. So use active channel like this. Great. Make sure you import it from .hooks use active channel. Great. And now we can actually write some stuff inside here. So first things first, what I want to do inside is I want to destruct the set, add, and remove actions from our toStand store. So const use active list, and what we can destructure inside is set, add, and remove like this. Great. Then I'm going to write a state here, active channel, set active channel like this, and we're going to use state and give it a value of either a channel, which you can import from pusher-js like this, or null like this. And make sure you also import use state. Great. And just make sure it's null by default like that. Great. And now we're going to create a use effect function, which is going to listen to all the people joining this present channel or leaving the presence channel. And we're going to move them to the global active list. Great. So use effect from React like this. And let's first get the active channel. So let channel is equal active channel like this. Now we're going to check if the channel does not exist. So if there is no channel, channel is going to be equal to pusher client, which you can import from ./libs pusher. So pusher client dot subscribe, and our presence channel has to be named presence and then something. So make sure you name this presence, otherwise it's not going to be recognized as a presence channel. So presence-messenger in my case, I recommend you do the same thing. And then set active channel is going to be the channel like this. Great. And now that we have that, I want to go ahead and write a couple of bind functions to this channel. So channel.bind pusher subscription succeeded like this. And for that we get members, which you can get the type members from pusher.js like this. Great. And what happens with those members? Well, first let's define the initial members. So const initial members, it's a type of array of strings and it's an empty array. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna iterate over these members and just push their emails. Great. So members.each. Now you might be wondering, what is each? Why not for each? Why not map? Because members is a special type it's a special class from pusher. So don't treat it like a normal array. You have to use .each. Get the member, which is a type of record string any. And what you want to do is just write initial members.push member.id. Great. And then you want to call the set function and just write initial members. Great. So what is member.id? How do we get that? What is that? What exactly do we save the member as? Well, if you go back into the page folder which you just created, you can see that we map the user ID as the current user email. So practically we are working with user emails, and we have this presence messenger channel which only works when we create this authentication. So that's why we had to create that authentication here, otherwise it won't work. And basically on a special event that Pusher describes in their documentation called subscription succeeded, we're gonna define our initial members. So when we ourselves subscribe to this presence channel, we're gonna list of all active members and we're gonna set them in our global store. So then we're gonna use that global store later on to compare who's active and who is not. And this is just the initial bind event where we load all the active users which might have been even logged in before us. Great. And now we're gonna create a couple of binds for when users get removed or when users get added. So channel.bind pusher member_added. It's gonna get a member, which is a type of record, string any, like this, open an arrow function like this, and all you wanna write is add member.id like this. And you have the add from the use active list. Great. And what you also wanna write is remove. So channel.bind pusher member removed, get the member, which is a type of record, string any, and what you want to write is remove member.id like this. Great. And in our return function we have to unsubscribe. So if there is an active channel, pusher client.unsubscribe presence messenger like this, and set active channel to null like that. And in our dependency array we're going to use active channel, set, add, and remove like this. Great. So we have this very useful hook, which we use in the active status component, and we use the active status component in our, in our global layout. So make sure you've put it in the most root layout of the app folder right here. Great. And now what we have to do is we have to actually use that global list to change this active status and this little message right here, as well as in this drawer right here, and we are officially done with the development. So first, let's use it in our avatar component where we have this green dot. So I'm gonna go and find my avatar component, and I'm gonna get the members from the use active list to stand hook. So I'm gonna write const use active, not channel, but use active list like this, which you can import from /hooks use active list, and just export members from it like this. Great. And now I'm gonna write const is active is gonna be members.index of user email is not equal to -1 like this. So basically we are confirming that this user email is in the list of members, and just put an exclamation point at the end for the TypeScript error to go away. And now that we have this is active right here, remember this span that we wrote, where now we're gonna make it dynamic. So you can just go ahead and write is active and end, and just wrap this entire span here. So now it's only gonna show if the user is in the list of active users. Great. So I'm going to expand this, and now all of my users have gone away, but I recommend you refresh this just to confirm if this is either an error or if something else is at play here. So just make sure you refresh and then wait a couple of seconds, maybe even refresh a few times before you confirm. So you can see, there we go, it works as intended. So you can see that I am active. So my bottom corner is active here, and Mark is also active. So let's go ahead and let's try and close this. And there we go, Mark is no longer active in the avatar. Great, that is exactly what we wanted. So our pusher subscription works, our pusher presence channel works exactly as we expected. And now we have to do the same thing, but in the header. So we don't want to display active if they are not active. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into my header component. I'm just going to expand everything here. And I'm going to zoom in a bit for you. Okay. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. So I'm going to use the active list right here. So const use active list like this. And I'm going to extract members from it like this. Make sure you execute the hook and make sure you've imported it from app hooks use active list. Well, basically the same thing you did in the avatar. And now here I'm going to write const is active and the same thing, members.index of other user. So make sure you use other user.email and put an exclamation point at the end just to fix the type, is not equal to -1 like this. And now you can use this is active to dynamically change either active or offline. So is active, active, otherwise offline like this, and make sure you put is active into the list of dependency arrays as well. Great. And now you can see how it displays offline. Great. And one more place where we have to fix this, whoops, is the profile drawer right here. So let's go there as well. I'm going to go into my profile drawer. All right. I'm going to go all the way to the top and I'm going to do the same thing. So const use active list from, you can import that. Well, the same thing at app hooks use active list right here. Great. Make sure you export members like this. So get the members and the same thing in the status text. Sorry, before, yeah, you have to define the const is active. So members.index of other user !email and just put, or you don't have to put, but you can put this exclamation point if you're getting TypeScript errors, is not equal to -1 like this. And then you can use that is active to display active, otherwise display offline like this. And don't forget to put the is active into the dependency array of our status text right here. And there we go, it's offline here as well. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna play around with some online and offline users to see how this is working. All right, so there we go. You can see that I have two accounts here. You can see that Mark is active, but John is offline. Same for me here. I can click on new here, for example, and it's gonna bring me to the conversation that I'm looking here as well. You can see that it says active here, drawer, the same thing. And for example, I'm going to log out from here. And there we go. You can see that Mark just turned offline and I'm offline right here. But if I go back, so yes, the name is Mark, but my email is Antonio. And if I go back inside, you can see that I will be added back to the online list. Perhaps it won't work immediately. Sometimes it does take a refresh, but most of the time the pusher works great in production. So if it gets out of sync, you can just try refreshing one of the browsers. And there we go, you can see I didn't have to refresh this one, but sometimes when logging in, logging out, pusher gets out of sync. But overall, the active status works very well, especially in production that I've tested. And this is the proper way to do active statuses. Nevertheless, that's it. You created an amazing chat application. You have active statuses, you have group chats, you have images, you have settings, you have drawers. There's a bunch of stuff that you made here. Excellent job. I'm now going to show you how you can deploy this on Vercel, and that's going to be it for this video. So now what we have to do is we have to deploy this to Vercel. So go ahead and open your terminal right here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut down the application and I'm going to add everything that I've changed. I'm going to commit this. like this. Great. And now I'm going to go into GitHub. If you have not created, maybe you already have the repository, but I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create my Messenger video like this. I'm going to set it to public for now, and I'm going to create the repository like this. And I'm going to choose this option because it's an existing repository. So you can just copy this entire thing, paste it here, and just press enter like that. And when you refresh here, there you go, you have the repository. And then I want you to go into versal.com and click add new project right here. And you should have your new repository. So I have my Messenger video right here. I'm going to click import. And then in your project, go into your environment right here. Go ahead and you can just copy everything inside. And you can click on the environment variables here. You can select the first input and just press paste. And everything will be transferred here. And just click deploy. And now I'm going to wait a couple of seconds, well, maybe minutes, and I'm just going to skip to when this is done. All right, so I got an error during my deployment, and perhaps you've gotten it as well. It's a Prisma client initialization error. Prisma has detected the project has been on Versal, blah, blah, blah. This happens in the new versions of Prisma, and it's an easy fix to do. All you have to do is go into your project, go into package.json right here, and in your scripts object, go ahead and add another script called post install. And what you want to run here is Prisma generate like this. And then go into your project, right again in terminal, and just write git add, git commit, fix, and git push again. Great. And now that you've pushed, and since you already have this, the deployment is going to automatically start. So there we go, I have my Messenger video here, and you can see that I have this deployment building by itself. So great. I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds and see if this one is going to succeed. If you want to watch the progress of this, you can go into deployments right here, and you will see this one was the first that got the Prisma error, and this is the one that's building right now. So let's see if maybe we will have another error or if the build will be successful. So you can watch that here. And there we go. After I added the post install script, the website successfully was assigned and it's successfully deployed. I'm going to visit it right here. And there we go. But one thing that's not going to work is our Google and GitHub login. You see, we have an error here. So what we have to do is you have to copy your URL that was just created. And first, let's fix GitHub. So go back into your settings right here. Go to developer settings, go into OAuth apps, and find your Messenger video, whatever you used for your project right here. And just change your homepage URL to the new URL and authorization to the very same URL, and just update your application. Great. And for Google, go back into your project, go into API and services right here. And then you want to go here into credentials and select your web client 1, or if you named it something else, I left it as default. And what you have to do here is change this localhost with that. Just make sure you don't accidentally put / here. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see. So don't accidentally put this / here. Make sure you remove one. So it's just your URL /API auth callback Google. And you can also add the authorized JavaScript origins like that, but remove the last / like that and press save like this. And now that that is updated, you can go back to your Messenger clone, you can refresh and try Google again, for example, and there we go. It works as expected. Great job. So I'm gonna log in here. It uses the same database as my local project right here. You can see I'm logged in, and there we go. You can see how app is much faster in production. I'm gonna try and send a new message here. And there we go. You can see the app is blazing fast in production. And I'm just going to refresh so pusher active status gets here. And there we go. Now it's fixed. Sometimes pusher gets a bit unsynchronized. And you can see that even delete functionality is much faster. Perfect. Amazing job. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to leave a like, share, and subscribe if you liked it. And see you in the next one.